All right. Welcome to the newest installment of Not Minding My Own Business. I'm Russell Farbiars with the Antonavich Farbiars and Northeast Berks Abstract, and I am so excited to introduce you to our guest this weekend, this morning or this afternoon, whenever it is that you happen to be looking at this. Dave Mattis from the Dave Mattis team, or is it the Dave Mattis Group?
Team
At
for sure.
team at Remax of Reading. So welcome, Dave. Tell if you want to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Very good. Well, thank you for having me, Russell. Yeah, Dave Mattis with the Remax of Reading and the Dave Mattis team. So I have a team of real estate professionals here that can handle just about any of your real estate needs. So I guess you'd call me the team leader, but I list primarily and help run the team and market, negotiate listings. And then I have three other agents and two wonderful admin that do, anything and everything for us that we need them to do. So try to have fun.
So one of the great things about your team, Dave, is that it's a team, and it really is an experience working with your team. So can you just sort of break down who does what, not necessarily by name, but just in terms of function?
Yeah, no problem. Well, like if you call me up, Russell, and say, hey, I have a referral for you, and it is a listing, someone that needs a market evaluation or whatever stage they're at, that's where I take the ball and run with it to start, because I'm primarily a listing specialist. Again, I'm licensed. All of us are licensed to do every aspect of real estate. But so if you had a referral and you said, hey, my cousin Jim wants to buy a house or whatever, then I would bring in either Josh, Jackie, or Melanie to say, hey, these guys work almost exclusively with buyers, and bring them into the mix. I would typically have an interview with them first, and then just say, hey, I'm going to send you over to one of these super qualified people, and then they sit down and move forward with the buying process, the pre-approval and all that. And then we have Erica is our transaction coordinator. So from the time we get a contract on something, like one of our listings going all the way to closing, or one of our buyers goes under contract, Erica then takes it from there to closing and helps us, run that whole process. And Leslie, who has been with me, I'm guessing maybe 4 or 5 years now, I should probably know this. She is our admin, and just, helps me with our listings. It helps us with our marketing, our, the client parties that we have, all the fun things that we hand out. She helps us just with every aspect of what we do. So that's pretty much the structure of it.
Oh, wonderful. So Dave, how did you get to where you are today?
Well, that's a great question. Started, sort of stumbled onto real estate in 1995, which is kind of, I think, what happens to a lot of people. And it really stuck with me. I was doing well at the company I was at. I was at a small real estate firm in Sinking Spring. And then someone at Remax recruited me for their team. And teams weren't even a thing back in 1997. They were coached by a person from California, so maybe they were a little more progressive. But anyway, I became a buyer's agent for this team leader at Remax here in Wyomissing, and did really, really well. And one thing led to another. I decided that working for her was a little more difficult than I was prepared for. So I actually got out of the real estate business, and I did mortgages for 5 years, believe it or not. So they have an in-house mortgage person here at Remax, and they recruited me to do that. So I did that for 5 years, and it tied really, really well together with my real estate knowledge. And then I just kept getting the bug, to get back into real estate. So I picked up the phone and called another team leader here at Remax and said, hey, if you want to expand your team, I'm ready to get back into the business. So I, again, became a buyer's agent. So I've helped a lot of buyers in my career. So I did that for 5 or 6 years, and then finally left that team, all on great terms in that situation. And then what would happen is Mel and I would go, Mel's my wife, we would go to the Remax convention every February, and we'd come back super fired up, and it would be like, hey, Mel, why don't you become my assistant? And then next year it would be, hey, Mel, why don't you get your license? So that's how the team formed for me. Mel got her license and started working with my buyer referrals. And then, one thing led to another. We picked up another buyer's agent, had a great relationship with Dave, and he actually just retired from the business entirely. And then we have one more agent here. So that's pretty much how it happened, just kind of, almost, I guess you'd call it a natural progression.
Yeah, it does sound like a natural progression, and it sounds like you've really worked in like all the different aspects of the process. How has working, for instance, in the mortgage industry helped you become a better realtor?
Well, another really, really good question. And I feel like when I sit down with one of my sellers that has a complicated financial situation or needs to understand how the mortgage aspect works, or what's happening right now is people are doing everything in their power to try to buy without selling, I can actually help people piece that together, whether it's through a swing loan, whether it's through a home equity loan, or whether it's just refinancing their current mortgage. But I know the ins and outs of all of those programs. So that's pretty much directly, how it's affected me. And then on top of that, I'm, got really used to doing closing cost estimates for people. A lot of people rely on their lender to do that. But I feel like that's should be an agent's responsibility. So, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar, can you walk us through what do you do for your clients that they wouldn't anticipate?
Well, I can't really sit here and say that there's something they might not anticipate. I guess a lot of buyers, kind of come into the process and they don't know what to expect. So, that's, I guess, a good way to sort of tie that together. But the first thing we do is just ask lots and lots of questions. And our goal, even though the world has, gone virtual, and a lot of people are, really, really comfortable with texting and emailing and, Facebook Messenger and all that. But our goal is to meet with whoever we're working with, whether it's, someone that needs to list their house. And of course, we're going to need to see the house, but buyers too. And of course, when I say meet, that absolutely can be virtual, and it does happen. But that's the key. We have a form that just, kind of guides us through asking them all the right questions. That's the key. And then of course we take the natural step to say, how are we going to pay for this, and try to help them get a feel for where we're going as far as mortgage is concerned, or is it going to be cash? And then just walk them through the process. So once that happens, again, on the buy side, we're getting them pre-approved, and then we just pretty much hit the ground running to start finding people houses based on their time frame. On the listing side, I show up super prepared, for my listing appointment. I have my resume in there, just lots of, I jokingly call it propaganda, just, because it's all about me. It's like, hey, here's all our bragging of all the transactions and families we've helped in the last 12 months and all that stuff. So we show up with that, as prepared as we possibly can, answer as many questions as possible. And then we come back a second time on the listing presentation with a really thorough market analysis. And, I have a marketing presentation that I review with folks. And then I have a listing presentation. We go live to the internet, to the multi-list, and I show them all the properties that I use to kind of come up with their price range of, where do they fit in with the market. And then, from there, people, I imagine, are expecting it, but when they don't have it is when they miss it. And what I'm getting at is the communication. Like, we really stay in touch with people throughout the process. Like, if we need to, adjust the price, I will, not be shy and raise my hand and say, hey, I think it's time. We send out a showing report every Friday. So we just try to stay in touch with people, as much as we possibly can. And I think that makes a really, really big difference.
Absolutely. Communication really is key. And I can say from working with your team, both as a former client and as a referral partner, that you guys do communicate all the time, and it is a very good thing to do. Now,
thank you.
just because I think this, that, folks might be interested in this. What's the strangest thing you've ever seen in a listing appointment?
It's really not fit for prime time.
All right. Well, let's try to keep it like G or, light PG rated.
All right. Well, the funniest thing, so one of the things that I think is a phenomenon when you're showing houses and you get super comfortable with people, or maybe people just don't care, is the amount of flatulence that you experience on a showing. So, so that's definitely fit for prime time. But the things that we see when we show houses, or the things that we see when we go to list houses, I mean, it'll just blow your mind, So again, not for prime time. Trying to think of something else funny, but no, I think that'll have to do. And then you'll just have to use your imagination on the other items.
Now you have represented buyers of from the whole gamut. I know you'll represent, obviously, high end houses, and you'll also represent mobile homes. Is that right?
It is for better or worse. I sometimes take some heat for that, but an example is we just listed a piece of land in Lenhartsville, and the person that purchased that. I mean, it was in the 20,000 range, and I guess the point of why we do it is if we have a ready, willing, and able seller that has gotten our market analysis, has seen what it costs to sell something like that, and they're motivated to do it, we're all over it. You know what I mean? And we just sort of follow the referrals, I guess, is the best way to put it. Because I just want to make sure that if someone is taking the time to either refer us, or someone's taking the time to reach out to us for help, that we want to honor that the best we can. So I hope that makes sense.
No, it does, and it's nice that you're willing to provide service to anyone who needs it, within reason, of course. But it's not, you don't seem to take the position that if it's not a $500,000 house, I'm not interested. You're willing to help just about anyone.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, there are times when Russ, we just, it's not a match, or there's just something so convoluted or complicated about the sale that we have to step away. But it's not that often. And then, to a fault, sometimes we tackle things that maybe we should have stepped away from. But I think it all just speaks to how driven we are to service the people we work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what would you say your personal mission statement is?
Well, I have it right behind me. I don't know if I can recite it word for word, but essentially it's to help people buy and sell homes in a client-focused manner. And then part two of it is just to help and give back to the community, like wherever possible. So it's those two things.
That's wonderful. Now, what ways do you give back to the community?
Well, lots. We're participating in Super Bowl tonight. That is Opportunity House. Josh participated in I believe it was an ARL event for the animals this past year. So we're in 22 now. So in 21, we had 2 blood drives. We developed our own food drive. That's just to name a few. We really just try to give back. And all of us are kind of bombarded by that. Hey, can you, 100, 200, sponsored golf outing. We just try to do it as much as we can within reason. And I'm trying to think of some other scenarios. But yeah, we love giving back. I just feel like our community. So I went through Leadership Berks in 2010. It's actually how I met Alexa. And what the biggest eye-opening thing from that was how much Berks County and the city of Reading need us all, to chip in and push things forward.
Yeah, and I'll say your name is always out there, and you're always doing good things for the community. When you came out of Leadership Berks, what organization did you volunteer with?
I actually started with Berks Nature, which is Berks County Conservancy, at the time. And I was sort of jumped into their trail ambassador program. So I was a trail ambassador manager for a while. with that program.
And that's a real neat location that they've developed over there on Alvernia's campus. You know,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been over there. I know I've been over there with my kids. My kids have gone to the day camp there, and it's really a great asset to the community. So thank you for whatever you did to contribute to that.
Well, you're welcome. And while we're on that, if I'll just I know this isn't gonna air for a little while, but they've been closed to the public for quite some time, and they're actually doing some renovations and working on their preschool, I think it is, but they're actually opening back up in about a week. So that's fantastic. And then the other thing is that people might not know, they have these wonderful conference rooms, and we did a team retreat there in November. So that we really enjoyed the hospitality, and then just the environment. You're looking out these windows at nature. You could go for a hike if you wanted to. So that's kind of what I jumped into right after Leadership Berks.
It's hard to believe that's been so many years ago, but
well, it is amazing.
Yeah. So let's see. So we talk a lot about the work you do. What do you do in your free time? What do you do to sort of relax?
Well, gosh almighty. So I am a musician. Kind of self-deprecating. I'm a lousy musician. So I do play some music. I play guitar and bass. Family is like massively important to me. I have, married to Mel. I have a 31-year-old son. I have a 20 and a 16-year-old daughter. So my youngest is into horses. My oldest was into theater, musicals, singing, and now she's off at college. So we don't really get to, do too much together in that sense. But so travel is huge. Although that's been, obviously really big challenge for everybody. I love sports, and I love eating, in case you can't tell.
Well, what is your favorite travel destination?
I'd have to say Europe. Mel and I have been to Italy twice, once with the family, and then we had some friends that were living in Germany, and we got to visit them with our family. That's kind of other than Disney World, that's kind of what we dream of.
That's wonderful, and hopefully soon you'll be able to do it again.
Indeed.
Now you said your older daughter is into theater. You were very involved with Genesius for a while. Is that right?
I was on the board of directors there for a while. It all sort of started when, my kids were kind of coming up and looking for these outlets of where they could go, to sing and act and so on, and just saw that, that organization, needed help, still does to this day. So I had a pretty decent run with the board of directors there, and I still go see shows and try to support them whenever possible. So that's definitely something that took up quite a bit of my time. To sort of intercept your next question, which might be, what am I doing now? Public community give back wise. There's a super cool science focused organization called Sparks, SPARKS. It stands for Science Projects Are Really Kid Stuff. That goes out into the community across the nation, and they're local here in Mountain, but they go out in not only Pennsylvania, but underserved communities for STEM education. They will, based on the grants they get, go out into underserved communities and do basically a period in a school day of science training for, I believe it's mostly elementary school kids, and the teachers are so thankful, and the kids absolutely love it.
That's wonderful. I'm on the board for the Reading Science Center that opened up in Reading.
Yeah.
And it's just great to have that science education, because it's so important for kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. And I think it's just you don't realize how I don't know, intimidated people are by it or whatever, that just, holds people back. And this, Reading Science Center and Sparks just essentially pushes it out to the forefront.
Yeah, and another organization locally is Science Explorers. You know, my daughter started with Science Explorers, I think, when she was in kindergarten, and even through the lockdowns, they were doing it virtually. And so I'd walk into the kitchen and she'd be on a Zoom and concocting some sort of science experiment
In your kitchen.
yeah. But it was great because and it was nice how they were able to pivot. I know that was the word of 2020 was pivot, but to really continue to reach students and and really excite students about science, even students who maybe wouldn't otherwise have been excited by it.
That's it. Until you get exposed to even one little thing, it could make the difference. So I have to tag on to what you just said there and let you know that Sparks is the nonprofit arm of Science Explorers. So,
I had a feeling.
Yep. So they're tied together, and it's kind of interesting the way it works, but it really, they touch 100,000 kids in a year's time, and they're always trying for more.
That's just amazing. So Dave, when you stay local, where can we find you if you're out for dinner?
Judy's on Cherry. Yeah.
Don't blame you there.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, not sure when this is going to air, but we're heading out to Gracie's 21st Century Cafe for Valentine's Day. It's no surprise. Mel already knows, but so that's another one that we'd like to go to, but it's a little far. Haven't been to the new Ganley's yet since it's reopened, so we're looking forward to that. And then if the kids had any say in the matter, we'd be at Chipotle. So.
So Dave, you're local from Berks County, right?
I am. Yep.
So what is your fondest memory of the area?
Oh my, I guess if I just take the instant gut reaction to that question, I would just have to say, learning trout fishing, from my dad, at a pretty young age, and driving him absolutely bonkers. I'm certain, I distinctly remember, fishing reel, unscrewing and falling into the water, on the first day of trout season, which he probably had no business taking me out on the first day of trout season at that age. But that created a lifelong love, though, of fishing.
Well, I don't know that I knew that about you. You love fishing. What's your favorite fishing spot?
Well, I go outside of the state. It's in New Hampshire. There's a lake called Lake Todd up in southern third of New Hampshire that's just loaded with bass. And it's one of those non-negotiable things, Russ, where I go there every June for 3 to 5 days. Oddly enough, I got engaged on that lake. So in the early days of your relationship, you're able to drag your other half, on these adventures. But now it's just me and the guys. But yeah, so that's my favorite destination without a doubt.
Huh. Interesting. So before we wrap up, what do you think more people should be aware of about what you do?
About what we do?
Yes.
Well, I guess we're really, really passionate about what we do. And of course, we're of a mindset that we think you're nuts for using somebody else. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, there's a ton of really good agents in this town and a ton of people that, that care as much as we do. But I would say that I wouldn't go as far to describe it as concierge service. Maybe you could. I don't know. But it's just one of those things, like we will literally take you from point A to point Z in the best manner that we know how. Not saying that there aren't going to be bumps along the way. I mean, darn well that we encounter crazy things in real estate, but we do our best. And I think with the way we're equipped here with our 2 admin and 4 agents, that you're not going to miss a chance to see a house that comes on the market. Just sort of speaking to how crazy the market is right now. I mean, there's like, if I'm away or Mel's away, we still have 2 other people, and then even when we all can't do it, we have other people in here that we sort of trade back and have coverage. So And then just our market knowledge, like with me doing a monthly market update on the Berks County real estate stats, just keeps me like totally dialed in, like to what's happening around me. I mean, I typically don't go out to a house and say, hey, here's what I think this is worth. I never shoot from the hip that way, but it does enable me to, have a pretty good handle on what's going on around us.
So on that note, what is going on around us in the real estate market, generally?
Well, again, not knowing exactly when this is going to air, we are in a real tough spot, actually, for buyers. And that is because of the fact that there's only about 300 houses for sale right now. And I even when this airs, I don't really expect that to change too much. So hoping things will, begin to break loose and people will feel, a little more comfortable moving around. So the word of the day, would be tight. The market is just extremely tight. But it sort of speaks back to using someone like with the kind of experience that all of us have, is that the buyer's agents that are working with buyers right now have been really successful. We have a couple, like maybe 3, 4, 5 strategies that we try to use on every offer that we make. And it speaks to working with somebody, with lots of experience because it'll increase your chances of getting that home, if you're ready to jump in. So I don't want people to be afraid. Interest rates are really good. We are finding people houses, but we do have to prepare everybody for how wild it is, I guess, is the best way I'd describe it.
So it's not the days when a seller will be lucky to get an offer. It's really a matter of which offer are they going to pick, and it may even be above listing price.
Very, very likely. Very likely. Yep. Yeah, we had one, just over the weekend that Mel was trying to show. And I mean, it was just, hey, if you can beat, they're buying it sight unseen and over asking, and they're paying both sides of the transfer tax and the real estate commission. It's like, you just, okay, we're not going to go look at that one, but yeah, so it's a little wild. And if you can get your head around it, we will find you a home. I mean, I could pretty much, if I had to take a list and say, okay, well, here's the last 20 buyers that we work with. Yeah, they may have made 1 offer, 2 offers, 5 offers, but we absolutely got them there. And try to keep people calm. That's the key.
And that is key. And it's not an easy thing to do in certain circumstances. Do you see any changes on the horizon with the market, or do you think this is the way it's going to be for the foreseeable future?
I feel that this is the way it's going to be. I know every other person I talk to says, you and I both know that the bubble's going to burst, or it's going to drop out, or it's going to change. And we are in a cycle, there's just no doubt about it. So it will change. But it feels to me like there would have to be so much inventory flooding all these different markets throughout our entire nation, because it is this way across the nation. I'm sure Canada is the same way. It would have to be a massive flood of homes to dramatically change things. So all we're looking for is like a normalization, so instead of 0.8 months worth of inventory, we would like, 2 or 3 months, days on the market, instead of it being 19, have it be 40, which was unheard of. That was what the average was back in the first boom, that I can sort of speak of, 01 through 07. And now the average is 19 days on the market. So that's pretty rough, but good for sellers.
Great for sellers. What do you think has sparked this?
Well, I feel like it's a really good question. We have a ton of millennials that want to buy houses because you've heard them that they're going to stay with mom and dad for a certain period of time or whatever. And they're ready to like strike out on their own and start earning equity and have a home of their own. So there's a massive influx of buyers, and millennial is just one category. But the sellers that are out there, I believe that COVID held a ton of people back that said, hey, look, let's just wait and see how this plays out. Let's wait till we go over to, the retirement home, or let's wait till we, I don't know, move somewhere warm till things are safer or whatever. So for whatever reason, it held back all these sellers. And now the biggest thing I hear is, well, if I sell my house, where would I go? So there is definitely an intimidation factor, even though, in my last breath, I was saying, hey, we will find you a house, and we will. You just have to be diligent, and you have to kind of be willing to play along with the market. You know what I mean? So if a 315 house is going to sell for 350, you have to kind of be willing to jump into that fray. You're not going to get a 315 house for 299.9.
Yeah.
So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Well, Dave, thank you so much. It's been great to have you on Not Minding My Own Business. If any of our listeners wanted to reach out to you or have questions, what's the best way to reach you?
So glad to be here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Best way is email, phone, or text. 610-334-0294 is the cell. I'll give you the Remax of Reading main office line, just probably because I should do that. Just state real estate law probably would want me to do that, but that's 610-670-2770. And then super easy email, as long as you can spell my last name, is davidmattis@remax.net. So it's David, Mattes @remax.net. And if we receive an inquiry, our response will be prompt.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Dave, for being here on Not Minding My Own Business. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in today.
Cheers, Russ.